What's poppin', dogs? Mr. Allen here with some domain and range practice, given some graphs of different functions. And yes, these are all functions. How do I know? They pass the vertical line test, right? F of x, g of x, f of x, g of x. It only goes through once, so these are all functions. Not part of this problem, but hey, just a little mathematical refresher in case you come across that, right? If it went through twice, not a function. Anywho, f of x over here. Let's do domain and range. And I'm going to do two different notations for these, okay? So for f of x, domain, it keeps going up and to the right. It keeps going up and to the left, so it keeps going right and left. I'm thinking about right and left when I'm talking domain. So if it goes to the left forever and to the right forever, then domain is all real numbers, or you can notate it as negative infinity to positive infinity. And we would not include infinity because we can never get to infinity, so you would not have brackets on that, okay? There's other ways of notating all real numbers, like some of this fancy stuff with like brackets and all this bougie math. I'm just going to throw down the double stack R, okay? All real numbers. Cool. Next one here, range. So for range, I'm thinking up and down, right? I said as it goes to the right, it goes up. As it goes to the left, it goes up. But does it ever get to a low point, okay? Yes, the lowest it ever gets is 2, and we're going to include that 2 in this, and it goes up to infinity and beyond. So for the first one here, we're going to say y is greater than or equal to positive 2. This notation here would match up with that notation. And then for interval notation, which are my parentheses, brackets, commas, whatnot, we are going to go from 2 to positive infinity. Okay? These mean the same thing. These mean the same thing. Up to you. If your teacher requires you to do either interval notation, which would be these guys, parentheses and brackets and infinities, or set builder notation is where this would apply. But I'm not doing the full set builder notation because I don't like writing all of that out with the brackets and the... Nah, man. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. All right. I like to just do whichever one is cleanest and makes the most sense given that scenario. Okay? Really, these are both pretty clean. I'm not going to worry too much about one way or the other. All right, how about g of x here? Well, for domain from left to right, it looks like we stop at 1, 2, 3. So negative 3, and it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. And we're not including those. So if we're going to do inequalities here, I'd go from negative 3 is less than x is less than 4. Or you could do negative 3, comma 4. I kind of like the interval notation, but to each their own, okay? This seems cleaner to me, but this also makes sense. Either one's cool. You don't have to put both. Just do what your teacher asks you to do. Now for range, we're thinking up and down. What's the lowest it gets? 2. What's the highest it gets? Oh, sorry, negative 2. What's the highest it gets? It looks like positive 2, but never quite gets there, right? We're not including those points because they are open. I know this almost looks horizontal there. I tried to make it look as sloped as possible. It's going up to that point. So for this one, we're going to have from negative 2 to positive 2. So this means that y is greater than negative 2 and less than 2. The arrows always point to the left when we are doing compound inequalities, okay? Now for interval notation, it's going to be from negative 2, not including it, to positive 2, not including it. Cool. Awesome. Open circles, we don't include it. Closed circles, we do include it. Beautiful. Let's keep going. What other color should I use? Let's use orange. Let's use orange. So I'll do g of x first. I'll just work my way this way to where I'm writing on myself. So for g of x, domain. Well, we're thinking left and right for domain, right? And this one goes only up to 2, but it does keep going this way. As it goes down, it goes to the left. We'll talk about down with range. So I'm just going less than 2. So we're going to either say x is less than, it's close, or equal to positive 2. Or you can say, and this is where you got to be careful with your interval notation. It's tempting to do the 2 first, but you should always go from the least to the greatest. So we're going to say from negative infinity to positive 2. Close those brackets. Last one here, range. Not last one, I still have another problem. Range, we're going to go up and down, right? It gets up to negative 1, but it keeps going down, right? It goes down as it goes to the left. So we will say that y is less than or equal to negative 1, or we could say from negative infinity, not including that negative infinity, up to negative 1 brackets, okay? Either one is cool. Again, you don't have to do both notations. Just do whatever your teacher says. Hey, I want interval notation. You're doing parentheses and brackets, okay? I want inequalities or set builder notation. Those are the guys right there for you. All right, f of x, this wonderful, almost cubic-looking function, but looks like it's chopped off. Okay, So for domain, we're thinking left and right. So how far left do I go? I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So negative 6 is less than, strictly less than because it's open. And then I go to the right. So I'm going to keep going to the right. Okay, so that's going to be, I don't like how this is written here. Let's do this. X is greater than negative 6. That's better. Much better. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, cool. So I started out with thinking I'm going to end it over here, but then I look, I'm like, oh, there's an arrow. It just keeps going. So X is greater than negative 6. Or you could write it as negative 6, comma, infinity. No brackets. Okay, only parentheses. I cannot get to infinity. And I'm not including negative 6. All right, now for range. This one's, I feel like this is the trickiest one of the bunch. So for range, does it have a high or a low point? Or both? Well, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the highest that it gets. Is this the lowest that it gets? No. Keeps going down, yelling timber, as it goes to the right. So I'm going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get as high as 5, but low. Okay, it's going to go below 5. So I'm going to include that 5 since it is a point on the graph. We can either say y is less than or equal to positive 5, or I can go from, let's see here, negative infinity. I almost did the 5 first. Negative infinity to positive 5. Bracket on the 5. This is a parenthesis here, if it wasn't clear. That rhymes. That rhymes, man. That's I rip and rhyme. That's all I got to do. Rip and rhyme and do math. There we go, guys. Domain and range practice given graphs of different functions. Hopefully that was helpful. I know domain and range is always kind of tricky. Some people put like little boxes around them. Just remember domain, we're going from left to right. Does it go to the left or does it ever stop going to the left? Does it ever stop going to the right? If it does, those are your key points. And then range is up and down. Does it ever stop going up or does it have a high point? Does it ever stop going down or does it have a low point? Those are going to be your key points. Otherwise, you're dealing with infinities if it never stops. All right? I never stop. Never stop doing math. Anywho, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like it, subscribe it, and have a great day.